Welcome to Geek Therapy Radio, where today I'll be talking about the new 16-inch MacBook Pro. But hopefully from a relatively interesting perspective, because you see, I'm a heavy PC user. I have at least a dozen PCs around me in my daily life, so what is it about the 16-inch MacBook Pro that makes it the first MacBook Pro I ever truly wanted? Well, sit back and relax, and I'll state my case. And whether you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments below. All right, here we go. As I mentioned, I am surrounded by at least a dozen PCs day to day, as I'm probably showing you here in some B-roll. Laptops, workstations, my custom arcade build, and a host of niche devices. While I use Macs from time to time here at work and elsewhere, the only Apple device I use daily is a 6th generation iPad, and believe me, it's great for what it is. So while I don't call myself a PC guy, nor do I believe I have any sort of brand loyalty, obviously there's enough evidence laying around here to argue otherwise. In my iPad aside, other than some old iPhones, I don't have any other Mac products, so no MacBook, no MacBook Pro, no MacBook Air, none of that stuff. So why is the 16-inch MacBook Pro a turning point towards me actually wanting a MacBook as a daily driver? Apple listened to consumer complaints and addressed them, at least some of them, and I'll get to that in a moment. So that's all well and good, but what has Apple actually addressed in the 16-inch MacBook Pro? First and most important to me, I am absolutely thrilled they added a little bit over a 0.5 millimeter of thickness, not only to make room for a bigger battery, but increased cooling capacity. That 0.7 millimeters or so might as well be 1,000 miles towards gaining the trust of power users. The dimensions elsewhere are slightly larger than the outgoing 15-inch MacBook Pro, but not by much at all. You'd be hard-pressed to notice unless directly side by side with the outgoing model. But even that slight increase in dimensions allows for, according to Apple, better fans for 28% more airflow over 35% larger heatsink area that allows for 12 more watts of increased headroom over the outgoing 15-inch MacBook Pro. And I'll throw a link up here to Max Tech's video benchmarking those results. The next area Apple addressed in the 16-inch MacBook Pro is the keyboard. Apple has gone back to the more reliable Magic Keyboard design. Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. While this should absolutely help with reliability, it also has the side effect of improving typing comfort. However, while I was never personally a fan of the very little key travel in the outgoing model, I wouldn't myself have called it uncomfortable. But every individual is different, so of course, your mileage may vary. But an extra 0.5 millimeter or so of travel cushion should work out better for most people typing long drafts, I would think. And the last area of improvement I'll talk about for the sake of my argument is that touch bar. There are other areas of improvement like the graphics and storage options, but those would have been upgraded anyways. I'm talking about the areas of complaint Apple specifically addressed in the 16-inch MacBook Pro. The case of the touch bar is brief but thoughtful. The lack of physical escape key was the loudest outcry in this area, so Apple gave us a dedicated escape key, and this is one of those little things as well. So really what this all amounts to is those little areas of improvement that indicate a mountain of change within the MacBook Pro department at Apple. This tiny escape key, this 0.5 millimeter or so of extra thickness, this 0.5 millimeter or so of extra keyboard travel, all adds up to miles of headway towards regaining our trust in the brand. Maybe even my dollar, because those minor changes go a long, long way. We can talk about how much faster the AMD Pro 5300M and 5500M graphics are than the outgoing 555X and Vega graphics. We can talk about the slightly improved screen resolution, the improved speakers and microphones, or even the massive storage options up to 8 freaking terabytes and up to 64 gigabytes of RAM. But the improvements that get me the most excited are those little things that indicate big changes. You know, acknowledging and addressing inadequacies is not weakness. It is strength. My hope is that the 16-inch MacBook Pro indicates a new trend within Apple on the whole. Of course, only time will tell in that regard, but for now, the 16-inch MacBook Pro is the first Apple laptop in years to at the very least become a contender when thinking about a new laptop, whereas in the past, I wouldn't even look in the window. So what do you think? Do you think that the 16-inch MacBook Pro indicates a changing at the guard at Apple that might earn your dollar? Or is the Apple tax still so high you wouldn't care even if it is? I'd love to know your thoughts about Apple or the 16-inch MacBook Pro in general, so let her rip in the comments below. And as I'd mentioned, if you'd consider liking and subscribing, I would truly be honored. If you'd like to check out the podcast as well, Geek Therapy Radio is available in most major platforms, so just search for it, it'll probably show up. But I will of course also include links below. And remember, we are all geeks about something, so embrace your inner geek. Know that you are worthy of love, and I'll see you in the next one.